A heartiest welcome to all the participants in this ongoing series of webinar. I wish best of wills to each of you in this crisis situation, COVID-19. This period of lockdown we are taking as an opportunity to enhance our digital teaching learning process. Some Education Trust is continuously engaged in such social endeavors which are helping the underprivileged and marginalized section of the society. Whatever proceeds we will get in this series of webinar will be used in this direction. Our esteemed speaker has readily agreed to contribute in this regard by sharing her knowledge as a resource person and contribute in the social endeavor as a social responsible citizen of India. To inaugurate the session, we have with Dr. Namita Rajput, who is presently holding the position of Principal OSD in Sri Aurobindo College, Evening, University of Delhi. She is our chief guest. Dr. Namita Rajput is the principal at Sri Aurobindo College Evening, University in Delhi since April 2017 and has an enriching experience as Associate Professor, Department of Commerce, Sri Aurobindo College Morning since December 1st. Besides her rich teaching experience for almost 27 years, she has contributed tremendously in the area of research, primarily focused on area concerning banking and finance, human resource management, and sustainability. May I call Dr. Namita Rajput?
Ma'am, your voice is not audible.
A very warm welcome to all the participants in this ongoing series of webinars organized by Farm Education Trust. Our esteemed speaker of today, Ms. Aishwarya Kaswal, has readily agreed to speak on the ongoing series of the webinars conducted by Farm Education Trust. Aishwarya Kaswal is a social activist and is doing a very good job in raising the social issues, especially in terms of the women empowerment, and has been awarded by the Commissioner of Police in this regard. I request Aishwarya, not taking much time, to enlighten us on the new topics she has chosen. So, welcome, Aishwarya. I now request Jyotsna to introduce our speaker.
Aishwarya Kadal is a social activist, writer, academician, and researcher. She is certified in social welfare from Harvard University. She completed her bachelor's in English literature, followed the University of Delhi. She has many publications to her credit and has attended many national and international conferences. With taking much, let me invite her for the word of wisdom. Ma'am, please.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jyotsna. Thank you so much, Dr. Namita, for having me here today. And I, first of all, felicitate every single one of you who have, come forward for such a noble cause. And without further ado, let's just begin with our discussion. I just want to know if it is visible, the slides are visible to everybody.
No.
No, ma'am.
Go on, present now. It is on the right hand side of the screen.
Ma'am, I have
now.
done present now and okay. Is it visible now, ma'am?
No.
It's odd. Is it now, ma'am? Can everybody see the
Yes,
slides?
yes, it is visible now. You can start.
All right. So we'll begin with our discussion on human rights, and we'll start with a brief history. Human rights are your God-given rights. Human rights are the rights recognized by all the nations of this earth. All the nations of this earth. This was said by Malcolm X. Human rights are held by all persons equally, universally, and forever. Human rights are inalienable. You cannot lose these rights any more than you can cease being a human. Human rights are indivisible. You cannot be denied a right because it is less important or non-essential. Human rights are interdependent. All human rights are part of a complementary framework. For example, your ability to participate in your government is directly affected by your right to express yourself and to get an education and even to obtain the necessities of life. Another definition of human rights is those basic standards without which people cannot live in dignity. To violate someone's human rights is to treat that person as though she or he were not a human being at all. So, this is something that covers the entire spectrum of human existence. These are the rights that are upheld by United Nations. We are all born free and equal. Don't discriminate. These rights belong to everybody without our differences. We all have the right to life and to live in freedom and safety. No slavery. Nobody has any right to make us a slave. We cannot make anybody our slave. Nobody has any right to hurt us or torture us. You have rights no matter where you go, where you are. These rights are to be safeguarded. We're all equal before the law. The law is the same for everyone. It must treat us all fairly. We can all ask for law to help us when we are not treated fairly. Nobody has the right to put us in prison without good reason and keep us there or to send us away from our country. That would be illegal. If we are put on trial, this should be in public. The people who try us should not let anyone tell them what to do. Nobody should be blamed for doing something until it is proven. When people say we did a bad thing, we have the right to show it is not true. Nobody should try to harm our good name. Nobody has the right to come into our home, open our letters, or bother us or our family without a good reason. We all have the right to go where we want in our own country and to travel as we wish. If we are frightened of being badly treated in our own country, we all have to have the right to run away to another country to be safe. We all have the right to belong to a country. That is right to nationality. Its roots, however, lie in the earlier traditions and documents of many cultures. It took the catalyst of World War II in specific to propel human rights onto the global stage and into the global conscience. So what exactly happened during World War II? That people were compelled to come together. United Nations was formed so that human rights are not violated. Let's have a look. It's a word of caution. The pictures that follow may be a little disturbing. Jewish genocide at the Nazi concentration camps. This is how the people, Jewish people, disabled homosexuals were treated at these concentration camps. I want you to have a look. Imagine them being reduced to skeletons, literally. Look how the fingers are amputated. The dead body being carried. Look how terribly it has shrunk. With no food, no proper hygiene. This is what happened to them, and this is how they were thrown into rooms, when they died. This is a young boy, and see, look at his condition. All bodies were finally reduced to bone ash. When they died, they were put into oven-like structures, and this is what became of them. Look, so many. And a dead body that was exhumed when the American troops had arrived at these concentration camps to rescue these people. A few people that had already been buried had to be taken out. So an autopsy could be conducted on them to see what exactly they went through. So, look at the amount of atrocities. Nazis came into power in 1933. They victimized Jewish community in Germany and in parts of Europe captured by them. Victims included Poles, Czechs, Russians, Belgians, Frenchmen, German Jews, and German political prisoners and dissenters. They were starved, and the situation was made worse by beatings, abuse, and torture. Death rate at each camp around 200 per day. Imagine. They were put to death in gas chambers, and the gas that was used to kill them was generated through cyanide powder. It is said when at all, if at all a human places a cyanide on his or her tongue, that person cannot even tell that the taste. It is so quick. Imagine the potency of the gas that was left on them. The prisoners were made guinea pigs for medical experimentation. Sterilization and other gynecological experiments were made on 19-year-old girls. Imagine. The Nazi prison guards at various concentration camps cut out heart, liver, and other parts of the dead and ate them, and even made goods out of human hide. When these American troops arrived at these concentration camps, they also found goods. What I remember watching, all these images I have taken from Netflix. There is a documentary by the name of the Nazi concentration camp, and I believe everybody should have a look at it once in their lifetime to actually see, what Hitler did and how corrupting absolute power can be. So, these pictures were taken from them, and I remember watching a lampshade that was made of human hide. I mean, I bet you cannot go through that video, that documentary, 15 minutes down, and I was crying like a baby. It was so bad. So, these are the circumstances that, propelled people to take an action. The idea of human rights emerged stronger after World War II. The extermination by Nazi Germany of over 6 million Jews, Sinti and Romani gypsies, homosexuals, and persons with disabilities horrified the world. Trials were held in Nuremberg and Tokyo after World War II, and officials from the defeated countries were punished for committing war crimes, crimes against peace, and crimes against humanities. The governments that had committed themselves to establishing the United Nations with the primary goal of bolstering international peace and preventing conflict. People wanted to ensure that never again would anyone be unjustly denied life, freedom, food, shelter, and nationality. The calls came from across the globe for human rights standards to protect citizens from abuses by their governments, standards against which nations could be held accountable for the treatment of those living within their borders. These voices played a critical role in the San Francisco meeting that drafted the United Nations Charter in 1945. So this is how United Nations came into being. So whatever atrocities were done to the Jewish people, to these homosexuals, to political dissenters, it actually sent shockwaves throughout the globe. And whatever Hitler did, whatever Nazis did, is never ever done again to anybody else. UN established a Commission of Human Rights and charged it with the task of drafting a document spelling out the meaning of the fundamental rights and freedoms proclaimed in the Charter. The Commission, guided by Eleanor Roosevelt's forceful leadership. So Eleanor Roosevelt was one of the many, people on the panel, and she was the only female. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights. On December 10, 1948, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that is also known by UDHR, was adopted by the 56 members of the United Nations. The UDHR, commonly referred to as the International Magna Carta, extended the revolution in international law ushered in by the United Nations Charter, namely that how a government treats its own citizens is now a matter of legitimate international concern and not simply a domestic issue. So if, in any of the countries, in any of these 56 countries, if something is happening on a local level, United Nations can intervene through, the declaration. All right, so it was a huge step in this direction. Recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. Influenced by the UDHR, influence of the UDHR has been substantial. Its principles have been incorporated into the constitutions of most of the more than 185 nations now in the United Nations. Four global conventions of United Nations. Because this, the whole workshop is very female-centric. So, our focus is going to be more on CEDAW, that is Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. Otherwise, there have been conventions on other issues as well, like racial discrimination, civil and political rights, torture, and other cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment or punishment, rights of the child, migrant workers, protection of all persons from enforced disappearance, and rights of persons with disability. So our area of focus is Convention on the elimination of all forms of discrimination against women, that is CEDAW. CEDAW is an international treaty that was adopted in 1979 by the United Nations General Assembly. And international bills of rights for women, it was in 9 states, which focuses on non-discrimination, sex stereotyping, and sex trafficking. And the part 2, it focuses on political life, representation, and rights to nationality. Part 3 focuses on economic and social rights of women. Part 4 outlines women's right to equality in marriage and family. Part 5, it actually states parties' reporting procedure, that how the development that are taking place through these conventions could actually be reported and analyzed. So part 4, it actually describes the effects of the convention on other treatises, the commitment of the states, parties, and the administration of the convention. UN conferences of women. Now, there have been 4 conferences in the past. The first World Conference was in Mexico City in 75. Second was in Copenhagen, 1980. Third World Conference was in Nairobi, Kenya. And the 4th World Conference was in Beijing, China. And this is the most prominent one, 95. And you can see here, Hillary Rodham Clinton, the First Lady of America back then in 95, making a speech that women's rights are human rights and human rights are women's rights. An iconic speech, and I think everybody must watch this speech once. At least it's available on YouTube. The first World Conference on Women that was in Mexico resulted in the Declaration of Mexico on the Equality of Women and the Contribution to Development and Peace. Second World Conference on Women, Copenhagen, 1980. Conference agreed that the 79 Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, that is CEDAW, was an important milestone. Acknowledged the gap between the rights being secured for women and women's ability to exercise those rights. Agreed that it was action on 3 areas of equal access to education, employment opportunities, and adequate healthcare services are essential to achieve the goals set out in Mexico. Third World Conference on Women, that was in Nairobi, 85, set out areas by which progress in women's equality could be measured: constitutional and legal measures, equality in social participation, equality in political participation, and decision making. Now, the 4th World Conference, that is, it was a groundbreaking conference that was held in Beijing, convened by the United Nations during 4th to 5th September. Governments from around the world agreed on a comprehensive plan to achieve global legal equality, known as the Beijing Platform for Action, aimed at achieving greater equality and opportunity for women. So whatever discussions, whatever policies that had been formulated in the previous conferences, what happened in Beijing conference was that, a discussion of practical application of all these policies was discussed. And so this is the most important, although all are important, but this is the most prominent one, the Beijing conference. Now, we quickly go on to the first critical issue, a very, very grave violation of women human rights, that is female genital mutilation. A few lines by Margaret Atwood before I start. Exhibit C is the young girl dragged into the bush by the midwives. And made to sing while they scrape the flesh from between her legs, then tie her thus till she scrubs over and will heal. This is what a person experiences. They are not aware of this. I have seen sexual that when it comes to the issue of gender, female genital mutilation. Before I start, I want you to see a visual of the lines that I just spoke. What is female genital mutilation? Female genital mutilation, FGM, comprises all procedures that involve partial or total removal of the external female genitalia or other injury to the female genital organs for non-medical reasons. This practice is mostly carried out by traditional circumcisers, who often play other central roles in communities such as attending childbirths. Now, a difference between male circumcision and female genital mutilation. Male circumcision involves removing only part of the foreskin of the penis, whereas female genital mutilation is a practice that is experienced by girls. Is actually clitoridectomy, the partial or complete removal of the clitoris, a female sexual organ, or even the removal of parts of the labia. So what the major difference between male circumcision and female genital mutilation is that in male circumcision, the procedure doesn't impair sexual function, whereas female genital mutilation, it actually has lifelong side effects and significant health and sexual impairment. So it is far worse than what is being done to males. It is also referred to as khatna in Urdu, and female genital mutilation is also known as khavs, and it is also referred as female khatna. But the word khatna, circumcision, has been objected by many people, for it actually restricts the understanding of a person, because what is actually being done to females is far worse than what is being done to the males in the name of circumcision. To make it the term more explanatory, female genital mutilation, the term was adopted. Okay. The procedure, FGMC, it is actually, there are 4 types of procedures: clitoridectomy, excision, infibulation, and other harm. So as you see in the image, let's first talk about type 1, that is clitoridectomy. This is the partial or total removal of the clitoris, a small, sensitive, and erectile part of the female genitals, and is in very rare cases, only the prepuce, the fold of skin surrounding the clitoris, is cut. So this is the clitoris, and this is removed in clitoridectomy. Okay, now, and a little bit, the issues circling around it also are removed in this procedure. Now, type 2, that is excision. This is the partial or total removal of the clitoris and the labia minora and the inner folds of the vulva, with or without excision of the labia majora, the outer folds of skin of the vulva. So this is the area that is affected. This area is cut without affecting the outer area, that is the labia majora. Okay, now infibulation, type 3. This is narrowing of the vaginal opening through the creation of a covering seal. So, this in this the whole, genital opening of a female, this is actually sealed. The seal is formed by cutting and repositioning the labia minora or the labia majora, sometimes through stitching with or without removal of the clitoris, clitoridectomy. So, it may or may not, it is not necessary that the internal part, clitoridectomy, is performed in this procedure, but the outer part of it's all sealed, it's all stitched. And other harms, type 4, this includes all other harmful procedures, the female genitalia, for non-medical purposes, example, pricking, piercing, incising, scraping, and cauterizing the genital area. So you can see how, how this mutilation comes about, female, I mean, the genitals are mutilated, and that too without, the administration of anesthesia. Imagine so much of pain and so much of discomfort. Now, de-infibulation, reopening what was earlier closed. De-infibulation refers to the practice of cutting open the sealed vaginal opening in a woman who has been infibulated, which is often necessary for improving health and well-being, as well as to allow intercourse or to facilitate, childbirth. So, when female genital mutilation is performed on a female, it might impede her body's, natural function. She might have trouble, menstruating. She might have trouble having childbirth during intercourse. So, that seal is opened up again, and that is de-infibulation. This is often performed several times, for example, on the wedding night, to allow for the sexual intercourse and prior to childbirth. Re-infibulation, closing the vagina, usually takes place after each childbirth. These processes pose serious consequences for both the mother and the unborn child. These women who often go, FGMC, they have issues delivering their babies in a normal way. So a C-section has to be performed. And often there are complications, and it often risks the life of the woman as well as the newborn child or the unborn child as well. FGMC is recognized internationally as a violation of the human rights of girls and women, reflects deep-rooted inequality between the sexes, and constitutes an extreme form of discrimination against women. This is actually performed for controlling the libido of a woman, because it is believed that, if this is not done, she might stray and, she would be promiscuous in a marriage, and, that would not be good for family life. So, this is an attempt to actually curtail female sexuality. So, it reflects that, the inequality, where female libido is lowered, is controlled, and males are, they're promoted to go have, several relationships with other women, is nearly always carried out on minors and is a violation of the rights of children. The practice also violates a person's rights to health, security, and physical integrity, the right to be free from torture and cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment, and the right to life when the procedure results in death. So, it is a very great, so once the procedure has been carried out, parents and the larger community, and often the girls themselves, they begin to see school as unnecessary part of life. This happens in Africa, where whenever this procedure is performed on a girl, because it takes time, for a girl to happens, often, and it is also seen childhood to womanhood, responsibility, and other household chores. So this starts seeing school as something unnecessary. And in some countries, undergoing the procedure results in girls entering a kind of community or society which gives them a very special status. So, it has a societal aspect associated to it. If you do not have this performed on you, you would not be, accepted in the society. And, if you don't undergo this procedure, you will also be ostracized. In many settings, healthcare providers perform FGM due to the erroneous belief that the procedure is safer when medicalized. WHO strongly urges health professionals not to perform such procedures. In the beginning, when United Nations intervened into this matter that was happening, mainly in Africa. So they started circulating, they started generating awareness as to how this procedure a person's chances of getting infections like AIDS and stuff. So what happened, a medicalized version of female genital mutilation came about, and which ignored the other bodily harm that this practice was doing, and that was not the basic purpose of this intervention. So United Nations had to change its awareness campaigns around it, and they start explaining as to how, even if it is medicalized, how it can harm a female body, how it can be fatal, how these practices must be abandoned. And many other organizations working to eradicate the practice refer to it as female genital cutting out of respect for women who have undergone the ritual and do not wish to consider themselves mutilated. So the women who have already undergone this procedure, out of respect for them, a hybrid term was adopted, which is now also being used by WHO, that is FGMC, female genital mutilation or cutting, so that the sentiments of these this procedure among a few minority groups in Asia, affecting from 1% of women in countries like Uganda and Cameroon to about 98% of women in other countries such as Sudan and Somalia. So, it is very, very rampant in African countries. The nature of the practice differs from country to country, with more limited forms of cutting in Sierra Leone, for example, to extreme forms in Djibouti and Somalia, for example. So, from place to place, it varies as to, how, what procedure is being carried out of the 4 procedures that we had discussed. It also occurs in some Middle Eastern countries, such as Egypt, some parts of Oman and Yemen, and among some groups in Saudi Arabia. A very limited form of the practice also occurs among some groups in Indonesia and Malaysia. Is illegal in at least 17 of the 28 African countries in which it is practiced. Has also been made illegal in a number of industrialized countries where immigrants or refugees from Africa may reside. So even in the countries female genitalia, those countries, even the respective countries are even, safeguarding the migrants from other countries from this brutal practice. So this is the global presence of it. You can see it is, concentrated in Africa, here, and Asia, and other parts as well, but in lesser number, mainly because of migrant communities, African communities in other parts of the world, migrant African and Asian, and other communities where it is practiced. No health benefits, only harm. FGM has no health benefits and it harms girls and women in many ways. It involves removing and damaging healthy and normal female genital tissue and interferes with the natural function of a girl's and woman's bodies. Generally speaking, risk increases with increasing severity of the procedure, as we discussed how it can actually make normal benefits at all. In fibrillation of babies, like we discussed earlier, drawn out deliveries can dangerously limit oxygen levels, causing injury or even death. So even newborn babies or unborn babies are at harm. Due to the fact that women may bleed to death during childbirth, many are forced to undertake a cesarean section. Immediate complications of this procedure: severe pain. Imagine having a part of your body cut without anesthesia. Excessive bleeding, genital tissue swelling, fever, infections, example tetanus, urinary problems, wound healing problems, injury to surrounding genital tissue, shock, death, long-term consequences, urinary problems. A female could have problems passing urine because the scar tissue may impede that normal function. Vaginal problems, discharge, losses and passing menstrual blood, keloid, sexual problems during intercourse, decreased satisfaction, etc., increased risk of childbirth complications, difficult delivery, excessive bleeding, cesarean section, need to resuscitate the baby, etc. The baby might be born because of low levels of oxygen. You might have to, give a CPR to the baby. I don't know, to resuscitate it because the baby just might not be breathing when he's born, he or she is born. Need for later surgeries, for example, the FGM procedure that seals or narrows a vaginal opening in type 3, that is infibulation, needs to be cut open later to allow for sexual intercourse and childbirth. Sometimes genital tissue is stitching again several times, including after childbirth. Hence, the woman goes through repeated opening and closing procedure, which is so unnecessary. I mean, why harm the body when it has no benefit at all? Then psychological problems, people who have gone through this procedure, they have many problems, depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, low self-esteem. They even, they tend to lose the trust that they have in their caregivers, because it is usually the females, the mothers, and the aunts and the grandmothers in the family who are taking the young girls for this practice. So it is interesting to note how females are doing this to other females. And the loss of trust and confidence in caregivers, like I mentioned. Who is at risk? Procedures are mostly carried out on young girls, sometimes between infancy and adolescence, and occasionally high risk. Whatever the trauma, forget it once they grow up. But that doesn't usually happen. The scars remain, both physical and psychological. More than 3 million girls are estimated to be at risk for FGMC annually. More than 200 million girls and women alive today have been cut in 30 countries in Africa, the Middle East, and Asia, where FGM is concentrated. The practice is most common in the western, eastern, and northeastern regions of Africa, in some countries in the Middle East and Asia, as well as among migrants from these areas. So even migrants are at risk. FGMC is therefore a global concern. So these are some statistics concerning female genital mutilation. 200 million already affected. In most of these countries, the majority of girls were cut before age 5. So the cultural and social factors for performing FGM, what are the reasons that propel people, especially women, to do this to other women? Where FGM is a social norm, the social pressure to conform to what others do and have been doing, as well as the need to be accepted socially, and the fear of being rejected by the community are strong motives. In some countries, huge societal pressure. FGM is often considered a necessary part of raising a girl, a way to prepare her for adulthood and marriage. It is said that if a woman is, has undergone this procedure, she's going to be chaste, she's going to be pure, and these are the factors that would increase her marriageability. So, this is also the reason why it is done. So, huge amount of societal pressure. FGM is often motivated by beliefs about what is considered acceptable sexual behavior. It aims to ensure premarital virginity and marital fidelity. FGM is in many communities believed to reduce a woman's libido and therefore believed to help her resist extramarital sexual acts. When a vaginal opening is covered or narrowed, type 3, the fear of pain of opening it and the fear that this will be found out is expected to further discourage extramarital sexual intercourse. and prescribe the practice. Practitioners often believe the practice has religious support. Religious leaders take a varying position with regard to FGM. Some promote it, some consider it irrelevant to religion, others contribute to its elimination. So, its association with religion is also a big factor. Local structures of power and authority, such as community leaders, religious leaders, circumcisers, and even some medical personnel can contribute to upholding the practice that actually must be stopped. So you see how these leaders, if they are telling people that no, it's in the scriptures and you must do this, so people are compelled to perform it in the name of religion. Whereas if these leaders, they take a charge and they take the responsibility to stop it, this practice can be abandoned. In most societies where FGM is practiced, it is considered a cultural tradition, which is often used as an argument for its continuation, like we discussed. In some societies, recent adoption groups, the movement. So, have this done to themselves, women, because they believe, this is going to connect them to their culture, to their community. So this must be done. FGM is associated with cultural ideals of femininity and modesty, which include the notion that girls are clean and beautiful after removal of body parts that are considered unclean, unfeminine, or male. So the idea of female genital as something unclean, is prominent here. So, when we talk about cultural ideals of femininity, it's in a video I was watching on FGMC, a woman was discussing that how a woman considers to undergo this practice because it's very unfeminine to pass the urine with making noise. That would actually not happen if you get this procedure done on you. So the idea of beauty, feminism, the feminine beauty. Sorry, it's linked. This practice is linked to all this as well. Poverty, educational level, and female genital mutilation. Now, these are all very closely linked. How? Where pre-adolescent and adolescent girls undergo the practice as an initiation into the womanhood, a girl is believed to be mature enough for marriage. So you see, this practice is also seen as a rites of passage, that a child who is undergoing this practice has now entered womanhood and now she's ready for marriage and bearing kids. And now education is not important, like I mentioned earlier as well. So they start seeing education as something important, and this is why there is a rise in dropout statistics of females, because they start seeing education as something. They stop seeing education as something important, and they think that okay, now it's time that we should abandon all the things that we have been doing academically, and let's now start with our real responsibilities as a woman, that is taking care of the family and childbearing. This attitude often translates into the belief on both her part and that of the community that she needs no more education. Missing school because of pain during healing and subsequently dropping out results in lower educational levels and fewer economic prospects for cut women. If women are dropping out of school, without completing their secondary education, there would be fewer economic prospects for her, because if you're not completing your education, it's hard to find jobs. Decent jobs that are good for your sustenance. So this also increases a woman's dependence on males economically, and this also leads to child marriage, because once a girl she's out of a school and she's not she's seen as entering into adulthood, the parents think, okay, now let's just have her married, even though she may be 18, below 18. So this also it is all interlinked. It all snowballs. It starts with something as simple as not going to school, and it snowballs into a bigger. It translates into bigger issues, bigger economic and social issues that that impedes the development of women. They may marry when educationally and economically disadvantaged, at an age that is biologically too young to be safe. So, child marriage, and even if you're bearing kids before the age of 18, it has serious health, complications for women. I was reading somewhere that if a girl marries before the age of 18, the risks that are associated with childbirth, they are five folds compared to that of a woman having, after 18. So, it is a very, very how this practice, it contributes to other social evils of the society, and subsequently we see women rights are violated one after the other. It is not about just bodily integrity. It develops into, one thing leads to the other thing leads to a thing that lies ahead. So it's a ongoing process of violations. Women's reduced sexual pleasure or perceived passivity sometimes triggers dissatisfaction in spouses and can promote polygamy, infidelity, or divorce, further impoverishing women. So, if in a society women are economically dependent on their male counterparts, if the marriage doesn't work out, they will have nobody to support them economically. So, females are also at a risk here because of this factor. International response. WHO issued a joint statement against the practice of FGM together with the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, and the United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA. Since 1997, great efforts have been made to counteract FGM through research, work within communities, and changes in public policy. Progress at international, national, and subnational levels include wider international involvement to stop FGM, international monitoring bodies and resolutions that condemn the practice, revised legal framework and growing political support to end FGM that includes a law against FGM in 26 countries in Africa and the Middle East, as well as 33 other countries with migrant populations from FGM practicing countries. So, it's not only illegal in African and Asian nations, but it is also illegal in areas where you might find migrant population from these areas. The prevalence of FGM has decreased in most countries, and an increasing number of women and men in practicing communities support ending its practice. So, people are coming out and they are voicing against, this practice, and even men are coming forward and they're saying that, okay, if this is at all, if at all this is about marriageability, we're not going to marry women that are cut. So this is actually, stopping this practice from, perpetuating. A few statistics again. So there has been a considerable amount of decline. You see, in 85, 51% women were cut between the age of 15 to 19. It reduced to 49 in 1990, and it has been declining. And today, that is, these statistics here today refers to 2015. So 37% women are cut. So there has been a considerable amount of decline, but still there's a long way ahead. So you see Burkina Faso, this is in Africa. There has been a decline from 89% to 58%. Egypt में भी decline हुआ है, 97 से 70% पे आ गया है, 41% in Kenya, and now not now, I mean in 2014 it was 11%. 72% in Liberia in 83 to 31% now in 2000, not now, I mean 2013. 84 in 84 it was 10% in Togo, and in 2040 it came down to 2%. So a declining trend, but still a long way to go. So many global organizations and many setups have come forward for the eradication of this practice, for abandoning this practice, and a few are here. 28 Too Many from Africa, African Women's Organization Austria, and United Nations from Nigeria, Egypt, UK, European nations together, Austria again, UK, African Diaspora, Germany, and there are so many organizations that have come forward for the eradication, for the abandonment of this brutal practice. Now, while I was reading about this practice on a very global scale. I was prompted to read about it in the Indian context, and what I found was disheartening. You too have a look. India's dark secret. Female genital mutilation is being practiced not just in Africa, but in the heart of Mumbai. Imagine a metropolitan city like Mumbai. Now, this is an excerpt from HT City and this was the research was done by Harinder Baveja. And for this, I would want you to have a look at a video.
My grandmother told me that come, I'll take you out and buy some chocolates.
I do remember I was around 6 or 7 years old and being taken to Dindi Bazaar. And I was wearing a dress that day because my dress was lifted. Something sharp, I know, cutting.
You hear so many different reasons. Most common, of course, is that it leads to too much promiscuity.
You are pinning her down, spreading her legs apart, and doing something that she's not even aware of.
People believe that they are doing it for religious reasons, but it's not in the Quran. It's not mentioned in the Quran.
Imagine being taken to a dark, decrepit building. Imagine being pinned down on the floor. Imagine your underwear being taken off. Imagine seeing a knife being heated on the gas stove. Imagine the hot knife slicing your clitoris. Imagine young girls shrieking in pain. The cruel practice of female genital cutting or female genital mutilation is not happening only in faraway Africa. It's not just being practiced in tribal societies. Young girls aged 6 and 7 are regularly being cut right here in India. Mumbai abounds with untrained midwives who continue to scar young girls from the Bohra community. For long, FGM or Khatna, as the Bohras call it, remained a well-kept secret, a taboo, a subject never to be discussed. But now some women, also victims at the hands of a Bohra tradition, have chosen to speak out. Here they are, speaking out on camera, perhaps for the first time, of how they were lured by their mums and grandmoms only to be betrayed.
My grandmother told me that come, I'll take you out and buy some chocolates and stuff. So I happily went with my grandmother, and she took me to Bori Mohalla. That's where a cluster of Bohras stay in Bombay. And we went into this dark, decrepit building, and then we went into an inside room where the curtain was drawn, and she told me lie down. And like an obedient child, I lay. And then my grandmother was holding me, holding my hands. And there was this other woman, an oldish kind of a woman, and she pulled my pants down. And I started crying. And my grandmother told me, don't worry, it's very quick. You'll just get over in a jiff. And that woman also told me, very quick it's going to happen. And she did something which was extremely painful. I shrieked in pain. I don't know what it was, but what I experienced was a sharp shooting pain. And then she put some black powder there. She just came home and I just cried and cried and cried. And there was a lot of pain which was there.
Arifa is a young, articulate journalist. Like most women in the approximately 2 million strong Bohra community, Arifa too was cut.
hear so many different reasons from different women about why it's done. You, most common, of course, is that this is unwanted sin because it is the source of sin, or this the kind of pleasure that women shouldn't be having, or it leads to too much promiscuity. But I mean, there is no scientific basis for that.
It's steeped in patriarchy, and it's the belief that a woman's sexuality has to be curbed. And if you want fidelity, and if you want the marriage as an institution to hold up, a woman has to be cut so that she is not going to go astray.
The sad truth to this painful process is the fact that it is a practice being done to women by other women. Most women we spoke to initially blamed their mothers, till they realized they too were victims of the same mindless tradition.
Of course, the first target of my anger was my mother, because she took me. But I'm very clear now that it wasn't her fault as an individual, because this is a very systemic practice.
Some women deal with the childhood trauma by just blocking it out completely, psychologists told us. Zara Patwa, an America-based technology project manager, found out only when she was 44 years old.
When the video of my family member came out, after that was when they told me that it was done to me. So I was kind of in an emotional state. It is so traumatic for young girls and does not fit with our educated community. It seems like one of those things that we should just let go of and move on.
Shahida, a public health professional, was protected by her mother, a child rights lawyer based in Canada. She was lucky to escape being put under a knife, but is struggling to understand why her community betrays its daughters.
I'm not able to explain to myself why. It is quite contradictory. It's just so ingrained in culture, and therefore you just unquestioningly do it just so that you can be a part of the community. If you openly declare that I can do this, so I'm not going to do it for myself or my daughters, then the backlash would be considerable.
Insia Dariwala, a filmmaker and child rights activist, was also lucky to escape. Her mother put her foot down after her older daughter was taken to one of those dark, decrepit rooms by an aunt.
So as you see, these women, they have come out in public and they are telling what has, they're telling their, sharing their personal experiences with this practice. It was only in 2015 that these women from the Dawoodi Bohra community, they came out, and they have been vocal ever since. And let's read ahead about this. So you see here, you saw this woman in the video itself, Masuma, who was cut at the age of 40, who was cut 42 years ago, and I experienced a sharp shooting pain, and she put some black powder there. Another woman who shared. So NGOs have also come forward, for the elimination, for the abandonment of this practice. Why? Because we were all drawn together on this platform because we never spoke out earlier. We were taught not to question matters of religion, tradition, culture. Our sexuality, our emotions, our desires, our pains, our traumas are suppressed. We should have control over our bodies, over sexuality, our lives. We believe that we matter, we count, and we make a difference. We want change, we want to end to practices which are harmful to us, and so on and so forth. And there's this another NGO, Sahio, that is also, it's based in Mumbai. It has been functional since 2015. And it started as a conversation between women who felt strongly about the ritual of female genital cutting in the Bora community. It is dedicated to empowering Asian communities to end this practice. So even female celebrities are supporting the abandonment of this brutal practice. You must have seen her in the movie Pyar Ka Panchnama. Nusrat Barucha takes stand against barbaric female genital mutilation in Bora community. Earlier, she was a little reluctant because it means a lot to go against the community. She comes from the Daudi Bora community, but later she decided that she's going to be vocal about it. She came out, and now she is supporting it. In America, also, it is prevalent, and Blake Lively is calling attention to a terrifying truth. Female genital mutilation occurs in America too. So even Blake Lively, a renowned Hollywood actress, is also supporting this cause. Menka Gandhi over the issue of FGMC. Government will end female genital mutilation if Boras don't. So, she said that if these people, they don't voluntarily abandon this practice, law will have to call in an intervention, and it has to be, banned. So it's a news from 2017, and where she says that we will write to respective state governments and Saidna, the Bora high priest, shortly to issue an edict to community members to give up the FGMC voluntarily, as it is a crime under Indian Penal Code and Protection of Child from Sexual Offences, POCSO, Act 2012. If the Saidna does not respond, then we will bring in a law to ban the practice in India. And it has actually been taken to the Supreme Court. These are the sections under which it is illegal. Section under IPC that makes FGMC illegal, Section 30, causing grievous hurt. 323, punishment for voluntarily causing hurt. 324, voluntarily causing hurt by dangerous weapons or means. 325, punishment for voluntarily causing grievous hurt. And sections under POCSO Act that makes FGMC a crime. Section 3 and 5, committing penetrative sexual assault on a child. Section 9, aggravated sexual assault. And 19, reporting an offense. So, petition against FGMC in Apex Court. So, the case is being fought by Sunita Tiwari. She is a Delhi-based human rights lawyer. And this is Sunita Tiwari versus Union of India. And this is the case number if anybody wants to read further ahead about the case. And in this, she says, Sunita Tiwari says, it amounts to serious violation of the rights of children, as even minors have a right of security of person, rights to privacy, bodily integrity, and the freedom from cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment. And the majority of Dawoodi Bohras are opposed to a ban. They argue that the circumcision is a religious practice and hence is protected under Article 25 and 26 of the Constitution. But there are other Muslims, non-Bohra Muslims, that are being vocal, in favor of a ban. They totally condemn this practice, and even they want, non-Bohra Muslims, even they want this to end. And the opposition lawyer has to say that, female genital mutilation is a practice in a safe and non-mutilating. It is actually a safe and non-mutilating practice by Dawoodi Bohras. And Mr. Singhvi questions the relevance of the WHO's report, given that it pertains to FGMC, not circumcision. So, this difference between FGMC, this nuanced usage of the term, this is problematic here, and this is actually helping other people defend this. So I think I am in favor of ban of such a brutal practice. I mean, this is absolutely unacceptable. Things are changing though. Women and men are saying no to FGMC than ever before, and more communities than ever are abandoning the centuries-old tradition. It is said that it has been continuing since 14th century. But then if it has no relevance, if a health relevance at all, why should it be carried? If India can abandon a practice like sati, this too can be abandoned. Prevalence has dropped by as much as almost half among adolescent girls in Benin, the Central African Republic, Iraq, Liberia, and Nigeria. More mothers are aware of FGMC can lead to their daughters or a girl's death. So there is a better understanding of the consequences which in itself is very important progress. So even the parents are understanding that no, this can be fatal to their kids, and they must not do it to their girl child, their own kids. I mean, girl child to be specific. And lastly, I always believe whatever you are doing, whatever you're reading theoretically, that has to have some reflection and praxis as well. So let's do our bit. I have done my bit already. I have signed an online petition on change.org, and I request you, at all you are convinced that this practice is a grave violation of human rights of women, I request you to please come forward and sign this petition. And this is actually urging United Nations to put on the list of those countries where FGMC is banned, and calling forth for a more focused approach when it comes to research in India regarding this issue. So, conclusion: FGMC is a violation of a girl's rights to health, well-being, and self-determination. That is said held by UNICEF Deputy Executive Director Geeta Rao Gupta. What is clear for is that legislation alone is not enough. This challenge now is to let girls and women, boys and men speak out loudly and announce they want this harmful practice abandoned. So, it is very important to spread awareness regarding this subject, because the first step to stopping something is to be aware of it. And if you are aware of this, you will be able to do something about it. So, now you have this, now you have the enlightenment regarding this issue, and I request you to spread awareness regarding this, and let's just help these women in abandoning this practice, whoever these NGOs and whoever's come forward to practice. So that is all for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aishwarya, for such an informative talk. The issues are very pertinent, very important, and must be spread across the society. And this kind of a concept, I think, is not very, the awareness is very less. So with your lecture and with your thoughts, what you have collated and what you have collected, the videos, so I actually want this to be shared with our participants of today, so that the things which they have missed on, they can, see those presentations, see those videos again, and get themselves more informed about it. So with these words, we thank you so much, and I give the dais now to Jyotsna for a formal vote of thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Aishwarya Katyal ma'am, for enlightening and thought-provoking lecture. I hope our esteemed participants have been benefited by the words of wisdoms. My best regards. Stay tuned for future webinars. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much.